Tori recoiled when I touched her back after 16 hours on Capitol Hill. "You have no right to touch me anymore," she said, and locked the bedroom door. I stood in the hallway of our Arlington home, my briefcase still in my hand, the smell of the Capitol building, old wood and floor polish, and the weight of history still on my suit. 16 hours. Committee hearings on the Family First Act, constituent calls about health care, a CNN interview about my bipartisan family values legislation. I'd built my entire career on one principle. I fight for families every day. And my wife wouldn't let me touch her. I didn't sleep. How could I? 22 years of marriage, and she'd never locked me out before. I sat in my study, staring at the framed bill behind my desk. H.R. 2847, the Family Values Bill I'd co-authored, signed by the president himself. The frame glass reflected the desk lamp, heavy parchment paper with that blue Sharpie signature I'd watched him scrawl across it 3 years ago. My proudest achievement. It felt like a joke now. Morning came too early. Tori was already gone, left for the hospital where she did God knows what instead of coming home to me. I went to our bathroom looking for ibuprofen, my head pounded from no sleep. I opened her drawer under the sink. Tissues rustled when I moved them aside. That's when I found it. The CVS pregnancy test sat there like an accusation. White plastic stick with a blue cap. 2 unmistakable pink lines in the result window. Someone had written the date on the side in black Sharpie, now 10/18/25. 3 days ago. The plastic was cool and smooth in my hand, but felt heavy, weighted with implications. That faint medical chemical smell, the scent of clinic waiting rooms and life-changing news. I set it on the bathroom counter, stared at those 2 pink lines. We hadn't been intimate in 6 months, which meant I couldn't finish the thought. My hands started shaking. I gripped the edge of the sink, the cold porcelain under my palms. My reflection in the mirror looked like a stranger. 47 years old, 3-term congressman, ranking member of the House Committee on Families and Children, and I couldn't even keep my own family together. The house was too quiet, just the hum of the refrigerator downstairs, the tick of the hallway clock, my breathing too fast, too shallow. I left the test on the counter, went to my study, tried to work, couldn't. My phone buzzed. Kevin Park, my opposition research director, then Richard Hartman, my district office manager, both wanting to meet. Urgently. "Not today," I texted back, but Richard called anyway. "Jim, you need to see this now." His voice had that edge. 12 years he'd worked for me. Never sounded like this. "I'm not... Jim, now." I met them at the Arlington district office, walked past the photos on the walls, me with constituents, me at town halls, me with Sophie at her Georgetown Law acceptance celebration. That one stopped me. My daughter's smile, Tori's arm around her, Brandon Walsh, my chief of staff, Sophie's fiancé, standing proud beside them all. The son we never had, I'd called him in interviews. Richard's office? Door closed? Kevin was already there, manila folder in his hands. His jaw was tight. "What is this about?" I asked. Kevin dropped the folder on Richard's desk. It made a slapping sound, thick with papers. "Expense audit," Richard said. "Routine, quarterly review." He opened the folder, pulled out a stack of white thermal paper receipts, paper clipped together at the corner. Capitol Hill, Hyatt, room 1214. I took them. The paper was thin, fragile, rustling with every movement. Semi-transparent. Hold one up to the light and you could see through it. Date stamped in red ink at the top of each one. July 8th, July 22nd, August 4th, August 30th. On and on. 18 times. "Brandon's corporate card," Kevin said. He claimed these were meetings with donors. "Donors," I repeated. My voice sounded far away. "At the Hyatt. Always the same room number. Always nights when you were in the district gym. Always late check-in after 10 p.m. I set the receipts down carefully. The paper clip left an indentation mark where it had been fastened. Who? I said. Who was he meeting? Richard and Kevin looked at each other. We don't know, Richard said. Yet. But Jim, there's more. He handed me another document. 8 pages, standard office paper, some sections highlighted in yellow, Tori's handwriting in blue ink in the margins. I'd seen that handwriting for 22 years. Anniversary cards, grocery lists, notes about Sophie's school events when she was little. Campaign strategy memo, Kevin said, for your 2026 re-election, except... He pointed to the margin notes. I read them. After Sophie's wedding, we make our move. Push Jim on ethics complaint. Force resignation. Brandon announces primary challenge February. The pages flipped with a distinctive sound, paper curling slightly from printer heat. My own wife's handwriting, planning my political destruction with my chief of staff. When did you find this? My voice was steady, too steady, like I was in a committee hearing, not watching my life implode. Yesterday, Richard said, on Tori's desk. She left it out. Jim, I think Brandon and Tori are... Don't, I said. Don't say it. But I was already thinking it. The pregnancy test, the hotel receipts, Tori's coldness, Brandon's constant presence in our home, at our dinner table, engaged to our daughter. I stood, walked to Richard's window, looked out at the parking lot, saw my campaign signs still up from the last election. Aldridge for families, Aldridge for values. Kevin's voice behind me. Jim, you've always said, I fight for families every day. Your staff believed it. Your constituents believed it. I believed it. I turned around. Is there anything else? The look on their faces told me there was. I went home. Tori's car wasn't there. I went upstairs to our bedroom, started looking. I don't know what I was looking for exactly. Proof. Denial. Something that would make sense of the pregnancy test, the hotel receipts, the conspiracy to end my career. I found it in her gym bag. Cheap plastic phone buried under her workout clothes. Nokia flip phone, the kind you buy at a gas station with cash and throw away when you're done. The casing creaked when I opened it, that distinctive snap sound that modern smartphones don't make anymore, cold to the touch, impersonal. Only 2 contacts saved, B and office. I pressed the button, old school click with physical feedback. The text appeared. Can't wait to be inside you again, Mrs. Aldridge. Tell Jim you're at yoga. Sent at 7:42 p.m. yesterday, while I was voting on the House floor. The photo below showed exactly what he meant. I dropped the phone, heard it clatter on our bedroom floor, hollow plastic sound, picked it up with shaking hands, read it again, hoping I'd misread. I hadn't. I scrolled. 243 messages. Most deleted, but someone had recovered them. Kevin, probably. He was thorough like that. I sat on the edge of our bed, the bed Tori and I had shared for 22 years, read message after message, explicit, detailed, proud. She wasn't hiding it in these texts. She was celebrating it. Brandon makes me feel alive again. Jim is suffocating, so righteous, so boring. After Sophie marries Brandon, they'll be family officially. Then we can be together without anyone questioning why we're always meeting. I set the phone down, picked up the magazine from my nightstand. Not a magazine. A page torn from Politico. Glossy, full color. The profile they'd run on Sophie and Brandon in September. Capitol Hill power couple in the making. The photo showed them at Georgetown Law Library, surrounded by law books. Sophie's radiant smile. Brandon's arm around her. The headline in 36-8 font. My quote underneath, Brandon isn't just my chief of staff. He's like a son to us. Watching him and Sophie build a future together, there's no greater joy for Tori and me. The interview was dated July 15th. The first hotel receipt, July 8th. 1 week. She was already sleeping with him when this article ran. When I called him our son. When Sophie showed us her engagement ring, so proud, so happy, so completely unaware that her mother and her fiancé... I couldn't finish the thought. I looked at the photo again. Really looked. In the background, slightly out of focus, a woman watching. You could barely make her out. But I knew that posture, that way of standing. Tori, watching Brandon pose with Sophie. The expression on Tori's face, even blurred, was unmistakable. Longing. If you've ever called someone family, truly welcomed them into your home, your life, your heart, only to discover they were destroying you from the inside, just type betrayal in the comments. You're not alone in this. I see you. Let's keep going. I confronted Tori in the underground congressional parking garage. 2 a.m., I'd texted her, Capitol Hill, parking level C, now. She came. That should have told me something. If she had nothing to hide, she would have asked why. Would have been angry at the late hour, the location, the tone. She just came. Her Mercedes pulled into the space next to mine. The fluorescent lights overhead made everything look sickly, washed out. Security cameras in every corner. I'd made sure of that when I'd requested this meeting location. Evidence. I was already thinking about evidence. She got out, looked at me across the concrete. What's this about? I held up the burner phone. Whose is this? Her face went white under those fluorescent lights. I spread the hotel receipts across my car hood, one by one, 18 pieces of white thermal paper. July 8th, July 22nd, August 4th. Jim, Capitol Hill Hyatt, room 12-14, corporate credit card, our campaign funds. My voice was flat, clinical. If I let emotion in, I'd break. Who were you meeting? I can explain the pregnancy test, I said. 8 weeks. We haven't been together in 6 months, Tori. Her hands shook. She looked at the parking garage cameras, back at me. Who? I said. Say his name. Brandon. The word hung in the dead air of the parking garage. Ventilation system hum. Distant traffic from the street above. The sound of my marriage ending. Brandon Walsh, I said, my chief of staff, Sophie's fiancé, the man I mentored for 14 months, the man I trusted with everything. It wasn't planned. You just what, Tori? Accidentally fell into bed 18 times. Accidentally got pregnant. Accidentally plotted to destroy my career. I pulled out the strategy memo. Her handwriting glared up at both of us. After Sophie's wedding, we make our move. Make what move exactly? You don't understand, then help me understand. Help me understand how you could do this to Sophie. She's planning a wedding to a man who's sleeping with her mother. She's picking out flowers and debating between salmon and chicken and trying on dresses, and the whole time... Sophie doesn't need to know, Tori said quickly, too quickly. This doesn't have to touch her. We can handle this quietly. You file for divorce. Cite irreconcilable differences. I'll move out. Sophie marries Brandon in December like planned. No one gets hurt. No one gets hurt? I stared at her. Sophie is engaged to a man who got her mother pregnant. Sophie gets her wedding, her perfect day, the man she loves, and then what? You and Brandon live happily ever after? With a baby? While Sophie lives with the man who betrayed her before she even married him? Tori's jaw set. If you tell her, you destroy her. The humiliation, the scandal, her whole law school class will know. Her career before it even starts. Is that what you want? What I want is for my wife not to betray me with our daughter's fiancé. You were never there, she hissed. 16-hour days, committee hearings, town halls, interviews. When was the last time you touched me before last night? Really? Touch me? I'm 45 years old, Jim. So you took my protege, my daughter's fiancé, my voice cracked. I stopped, breathed. The baby, it's his. Yes. And the plan, the strategy memo. You were going to force me out and run Brandon for my seat. He's brilliant, Jim. Charismatic, young, he could win. He's a sociopath, I said, and you helped him. Tori stepped closer. Her voice dropped. If you tell anyone, Sophie, the press, anyone, I'll say you hit me. I'll say you've been abusive for years, controlling, angry, that I was afraid, that Brandon protected me, that the baby is yours, but I'm leaving because I feared for my safety. She tilted her head. Who do you think they'll believe, Jim? The angry politician facing a primary challenge, or the victim? I looked at her. This woman I'd loved for 22 years, married in a small church in Richmond, built a life with, raised Sophie with, and I didn't recognize her at all. Get away from me, I said. She got back in her Mercedes. The engine purred to life. She rolled down her window. You have until Sophie's wedding to decide. 7 weeks, Jim. Ruin her big day, or let her have her happiness. Your choice. She drove away, taillights disappearing up the ramp. I stood alone in the parking garage, held the burner phone in my hand. 243 messages of evidence, hotel receipts, strategy memo, pregnancy test at home, and 7 weeks until my daughter married a predator. Kevin Park found me in my Arlington office the next morning. I hadn't slept. Again. Sat at my desk watching the sunrise through the window, thinking about Sophie, about Brandon's smile at family dinners, about Tori's hand finding his under the table. Had I seen that before and ignored it? How long had I been blind? Kevin knocked. Didn't wait for an answer. Came in and closed the door behind him. He dropped a manila folder on my desk. It made that same slapping sound, thick with papers. Confidential, Walsh vetting, stamped across the front in red ink, 47 pages. I could feel the weight of them. What is this? You asked me to vet Brandon for promotion to Chief of Staff 14 months ago, Kevin said. I did. This is the file. I never showed it to you because you'd already hired him, but now, he opened it. Now you need to see it. The papers rustled as he flipped through. Dog-eared corners, yellow sticky notes protruding like accusations, the smell of toner from the copy machine. Texas 2019, Kevin said. Congressman Bill Davis, District 25. Brandon was his campaign manager. I looked at the first page, newspaper clipping. Davis divorces wife amid scandal. Brandon had an affair with Davis's wife, Kevin said. His voice was flat, factual, like he was presenting research, not destroying my world further. Exactly like this, Jim. Met her during late-night campaign strategy sessions, 6-month affair. When Davis found out, Brandon married the wife, said it was true love, that they couldn't help themselves. What happened? My voice was hoarse. 6 months later, Brandon left her, filed for annulment, moved to D.C., got hired by the DNC, then by you. Kevin turned more pages, more newspaper clippings, more evidence. There's more. College girlfriend in Virginia, he seduced her mother. Graduate school in California, he had an affair with his thesis advisor's wife. This is what he does, Jim. I stared at the papers, the pattern laid out in black and white. He targets powerful men, Kevin said, gets close to them, gains their trust, seduces their wives or daughters or both, uses the chaos to advance his own career. He met my eyes. Sophie isn't special to him. She's just next. The folder sat open on my desk, evidence of what Brandon Walsh really was. Not the brilliant young strategist I'd mentored, not the son I'd never had, a predator, methodical, patient, cruel, and he'd been in my home, at my dinner table, engaged to my daughter, planning my destruction while sleeping with my wife. He did this before, I said slowly, processing. Exact same playbook. Exact same, Kevin confirmed. This isn't love. This isn't passion. This is what he does, Jim. I closed the folder. The worn edges, the red stamp, the weight of 47 pages of evidence. Sophie was in danger, not from heartbreak, from a predator who'd done this again and again and again. and I'd welcomed him into our lives, gave him an office, an all-access badge, a seat at our family table, my daughter's hand in marriage. Something cold settled in my chest. Not grief anymore. Something sharper. I wasn't the victim here. Sophie was. And I was going to protect her, even if it cost me everything. Ana Gutierrez burst into my Capitol Hill office 3 days later. My press secretary, 32 years old, sharp as hell, loyal to a fault. Her phone was buzzing in her hand. "Jim, we have a problem." I looked up from the opposition research file. I'd been reading it again and again, trying to understand how I'd missed the signs, how I'd let a predator into my family. "Washington Post," Anna said. She set her phone on my desk, email printout still warm from the printer. "Anonymous source claims there's an improper relationship between senior staff and a family member." My blood went cold. "They're asking for comment," Anna continued. "Reporter is Sarah Mitchell. She's good, thorough. She won't publish without confirmation, but Jim, she's asking the right questions about Brandon, about Tori, about campaign finance irregularities." I stared at the email, black text on white paper, professional, polite, deadly. "How long do we have?" "They publish in 10 days. Standard for a story this sensitive. They'll give us time to respond." Anna sat down across from me. "Jim, what's going on? Richard won't tell me. Kevin won't tell me. You've been different, distant, and now this." I looked at her, wanted to tell her everything, wanted to share the burden. But if I told her, she'd have to manage the message, spin it. And how do you spin your wife sleeping with your daughter's fiancé while plotting your political destruction? "I can't talk about it yet," I said. "The Post publishes in 10 days. "I know, Jim. I know, Anna." She stood, picked up her phone, looked at the framed bill behind my desk, HR 2847, Family Values Bill. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "That bill," she said quietly. "You fought for that. You believed in it. Whatever's happening, that belief was real, right?" I thought about the speech I'd given, about protecting families, about the sanctity of vows, about being the kind of leader who lives his values. "The belief was real," I said. "The family wasn't." Anna left. I sat in my office. 10 days. The Post had 10 days, which meant I had less than that to figure out what to do. Tell Sophie and destroy her world. Stay silent and let her marry a predator. Tell the press and watch the scandal consume us all. No good choices, just varying degrees of destruction. My phone buzzed. "Richard, donor breakfast tomorrow morning, Arlington Hilton, you, Tori, and the future of the campaign need to be there. 120 donors, can't cancel." I texted back, "Who's the future of the campaign?" "Brandon and Sophie. They're the draw. Young love? Next generation? You know the speech?" I did know the speech. I'd given versions of it a dozen times. My brilliant chief of staff and my accomplished daughter, the future of Virginia politics. A love story that began in my office, blossomed over policy debates, resulted in an engagement that made me the proudest father in America. Every word of it was a lie, and tomorrow I'd have to smile and say it again. The Arlington Hilton ballroom, 120 donors eating rubber chicken and drinking mediocre coffee. Local press cameras in the back. My campaign staff working the room, Richard glad handing the big donors, Anna managing the reporters, Kevin standing against the wall watching everything with those careful eyes, and me at the head table, Tori on my left, Sophie on my right, Brandon next to Sophie, his hand covering hers on the white tablecloth. I hadn't touched Tori since that night in the parking garage, hadn't looked at Brandon without wanting to. I smiled, shook hands, said the right things. "Thank you all for being here. Your support means everything, not just to me, but to the values we fight for every single day." Applause, polite, expected. A donor stood, Margaret Chen, retired teacher, gives $500 every cycle. Congressman, we love your fighting for families message. That's why we're here. That's why we believe in you. I glanced at Tori. She was looking at her phone, smiling slightly, texting. Brandon's phone buzzed a second later. He glanced at it under the table, smiled. They were texting each other. Right here, right now, in front of 120 donors, in front of our daughter, in front of me. Thank you, Margaret, I said, my voice steady, professional, dead inside. I've always said I fight for families every day. It's not just a slogan. It's who I am. More applause. Sophie stood. Someone had asked her to say a few words. She was good at this, poised, articulate, her mother's charisma and my policy depth. She'd make a hell of a lawyer someday, if this didn't destroy her first. I'm so grateful to be here, Sophie said. The microphone picked up every word. To be part of this campaign, this family, and she reached for Brandon's hand. He stood beside her. To be marrying a man my parents raised like their own son. The room erupted. Applause. A few whistles. Someone shouted, "Congratulations!" Brandon kissed Sophie's cheek. Cameras flashed. He pulled her close. Over her shoulder, he looked at Tori. I saw it. The look, the smile, the promise. And Tori smiled back. Sophie saw none of it. She was radiant, happy, completely unaware that her fiancé and her mother, I stood, clapped. Smile so hard my face hurt. I'm so lucky, Sophie said into the microphone, to have found a partner who shares our family's values, who my dad mentored, who my mom adores. Brandon isn't just my fiancé, he's family. Under the table, Tori's hand found Brandon's. I watched it happen, her fingers sliding over his wrist, his thumb stroking her palm. 2 feet from our daughter, in front of 120 witnesses who saw nothing, because they weren't looking for it. Why would they? The Aldridge family, the model of political success and personal integrity, the congressman who fights for families, the supportive wife, the brilliant daughter, the devoted fiancé, all of it a lie. Have you ever had to smile while your world was ending? Had to pretend everything was fine when you were drowning? Type mask. If you've worn one too, I see you. After the breakfast in the parking lot, Sophie caught up to me. Dad, wait. I turned. She looked concerned. Her engagement ring caught the morning sun. 2-carat diamond, cushion cut, Tiffany setting. Brandon had good taste, expensive taste. Campaign finance laws didn't allow him to afford that ring on his salary, which meant I pushed the thought away. What's wrong? I asked. That's what I want to know, Sophie said. You and Mom, you haven't looked at her in 3 days. Haven't touched her, and you've been distant with Brandon too, like you're angry but trying not to show it. Smart girl. Too smart. She'd inherited that from me. Everything's fine, sweetheart, just campaign stress. Dad. She stepped closer, lowered her voice. Is something wrong between you and Mom? Yes. Everything. Your mother is pregnant with your fiancé's baby. They're planning my political destruction. And your wedding is a prop in their conspiracy. No, I said, nothing's wrong. She searched my face. I'd never been good at lying to her. She always knew. You're lying, she said softly. I'm not. You get this look. Your jaw tightens. You did it when I was 16 and asked if you'd read my diary. You had. And you're doing it now. She took my hand. Dad, please, whatever it is, you can tell me. I looked at my daughter, 24 years old, Georgetown Law 2L, editor of the Law Journal, engaged to be married, building a life, a future, and I was about to destroy all of it. But not yet, not here, not without being absolutely sure I had no other choice. I promise, I said. If there's something you need to know, I'll tell you, but right now, trust me, it's just campaign stress. She nodded slowly. Didn't believe me, but she'd trust me, for now. Okay, she said, but Dad, whatever's happening, I'm on your side, always. She hugged me. I held her tight. This might be the last time she looked at me without horror, without betrayal, without realizing her father had been too blind to protect her from the predator she'd invited into her bed. Anna found me in my Capitol Hill office that afternoon, laptop in hand, face grim. "You need to see this." She set the laptop on my desk, turned it toward me, YouTube video, 2.3 million views, my face in the thumbnail. "Your June 14th speech," Anna said. "The Marriage Protection Act floor speech. It went viral yesterday." I clicked play. There I was, 6 months ago, standing at the House microphone, impassioned, authentic, voice cracking with emotion. "We must protect the sanctity of marriage vows," my recorded voice said, not as a political talking point, not as a wedge issue, but as a sacred promise between two people who choose each other every single day, who honor that choice, who keep their vows even when it's hard. The video cut to Tori in the gallery. I hadn't noticed during the speech, but now, watching the playback, it was obvious. She was on her phone, texting, smiling. The timestamp, June 14th, 2025, 2:47 p.m. I scrolled through the comments, thousands of them. Hypocrite. Bet he's cheating on his wife. Politicians always preach what they don't practice. This aged poorly. Anna scrolled down. Comment number 847. She pointed. This guy preaches family values. His wife is probably cheating on him right now. Posted June 14th, 2025, 2:51 p.m. 4 minutes after my speech ended. The commenter had no idea how right they were. "It's everywhere," Anna said. "Cable news panels, Twitter, Reddit. They're calling you a hypocrite. The MAGA crowd says you're a typical liberal fraud. The progressive crowd says you're a typical conservative hypocrite. Everyone's using your own words against you." She paused. "Jim, what the hell is going on?" I closed the laptop, couldn't watch anymore, couldn't read those comments. Every word I'd said in that speech was true. I'd meant it. I'd lived it. But Tori hadn't. And Brandon hadn't. And now my genuine belief in marriage, in vows, in fidelity, it was being mocked, weaponized, turned into proof of hypocrisy I didn't commit. "They're wrong," I said quietly. "Then tell me how. Let me help you, Jim. Let me do my job." I looked at Anna. She'd been with me 4 years. Brilliant, trustworthy, loyal. But I couldn't tell her. Not yet. Because once I told anyone outside my inner circle, it became real, public, unstoppable. "I can't," I said. She left. The laptop stayed on my desk. 2.3 million views, growing by the minute. My own words, my own authentic values turned into evidence against me. And 10 days until the Washington Post published. Sophie came to my Arlington office Sunday afternoon. No warning, just showed up. Her face was troubled. "We need to talk," she said. My stomach dropped. Did she know? Had someone told her? Had she figured it out? "Of course, come in." She sat across from my desk, the same chair where I'd reviewed her law school applications 3 years ago, where we'd celebrated her acceptance, where I'd told her how proud I was. Wedding invitation proof copies sat on the corner of my desk. Cream cardstock, raised gold lettering. "Mr. and Mrs. James Aldridge request the honor of your presence at the marriage of their daughter Sophie Catherine to Mr. Brandon Michael Walsh." December 20th, 2025, National Cathedral, 600 guests, 6 weeks away. Sophie twisted her engagement ring, nervous habit. The diamond caught the light. "Something's wrong," she said, "with you and Mom, and I need you to stop lying about it." Sophie, "No, listen." She leaned forward. "I went to your house yesterday to drop off wedding stuff. You and Mom. You're sleeping in separate rooms. Don't deny it. I saw it. Your stuff in the guest room. And at the donor breakfast, you couldn't even look at her. Dad, are you getting divorced?" The word hung between us. "I don't know," I said, honestly. "Is it because of the campaign? Because of the stress? Because, Dad, if you're falling apart because you work too hard, because you give everything to everyone else and nothing to yourself, it's not that. Then what?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The curve of her jaw, Tori's, the intelligence in her eyes, mine, the way she tilted her head when thinking, a combination of both of us. 24 years of love and hope and parenting compressed into this one moment. Tell her now, show her the evidence, protect her. But Tori's threat echoed, ruin her big day or let her have her happiness. And my own calculation, if I tell her now, Brandon will spin it. He'll say I'm lying, that I'm jealous of their relationship, that I'm trying to break them up because I can't handle losing control. And Sophie might believe him because she loves him, because she's planning a wedding, because cognitive dissonance is powerful and people believe what they want to believe. But if I wait, if I gather more evidence, if I make it undeniable... Dad, you're scaring me. I took her hands. Sophie, I promise you, if there's something you need to know about Mom, about our marriage, about anything that affects you, I will tell you. But right now, I'm still figuring things out. Can you trust me for a little while longer? How long? A few weeks. Before the wedding? Yes, before the wedding. She searched my face, looking for the lie, the truth, something. Okay, she said finally. But Dad, I meant what I said at the breakfast. I'm on your side. Whatever's happening, whatever you're dealing with, I'm your daughter, and I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. She stood, hugged me, left. I sat in my office, looked at those wedding invitations, National Cathedral, 600 guests, Christmas season, her dream wedding. And I was about to burn it all down because I loved her too much to let her marry a predator. Diane Walsh came to my Capitol Hill office 2 days later. Brandon's mother, 62, politically connected, major donor. She'd given my campaign $50,000 over the years, sat on the Virginia Democratic Party Finance Committee, had the governor's private number. She brought her attorney, some DC shark in a $3,000 suit. Thank you for seeing me, Congressman, Diane said, smiled like we were discussing committee assignments. Sat down uninvited. Her attorney stood behind her. What can I do for you, Diane? She opened her purse, pulled out a check, set it on my desk. $500,000 made out to Aldridge for Congress 2026. I want to increase my support, Diane said, help you win another term, help you continue your important work on family policy. I looked at the check, at her, at the attorney's blank face. What do you want in return? Nothing. She smiled wider. Well, almost nothing. I want you to let Sophie marry Brandon. I want you to divorce Tori quietly. Irreconcilable differences. No public drama. No scandalous accusations. Everyone moves on with dignity. And if I don't? The attorney pulled a document from his briefcase. 8 pages, set it next to the check. Non-disclosure agreement, Diane said. You sign it, you take the money, you let the wedding proceed as planned. Tori moves out, you and she split quietly. Sophie gets her happy day. Brandon gets his wife. Everyone wins. Except Sophie marries a man who got her mother pregnant. Diane's smile didn't falter. Brandon made a mistake. Tori seduced him. She's older, manipulative. She took advantage of his kindness, his loyalty to your family. He's a victim here, Congressman. And if you force this into the open, I'll make sure everyone knows that. I'll make sure they know you were abusive, controlling, that Tori feared you, that she turned to Brandon for protection. That's a lie. Is it? Your word against hers, against mine, against a young man whose career you're trying to destroy out of jealousy. She tapped the check. 500,000, your political survival, your daughter's happiness. Or you can refuse. Let the Washington Post publish. Watch your career end. Watch Sophie's humiliation become national news. Watch your legacy, that bill behind your desk, become a punchline. The attorney spoke for the first time. Mrs. Walsh is prepared to testify that she witnessed concerning behavior, anger issues, controlling tendencies. She can provide very convincing documentation. Fabricated documentation, I said. Can you prove that? Diane asked. In court, in the press. While your daughter is planning her wedding, while the Post is investigating, while your constituents are watching, can you prove anything, Congressman? Or will it just be your word against multiple witnesses? I looked at the check again, $500,000. My political survival bought and paid for. Keep my seat, keep my career, keep my reputation. All I had to do was let Sophie marry a predator. Let Brandon get away with it. Let Tori walk away with minimal consequences. If you were Jim in that moment, holding that check, knowing you could save your career and spare your daughter public humiliation, but only by letting her marry a predator, would you? Take the money, let the wedding happen, protect your political survival, type survive. Or reject it, expose everything, risk losing everything including your daughter's trust, type truth. What would you do? I'll be honest, I don't know if there's a right answer, but there's Jim's answer. Let's see what I chose. I picked up the check, looked at those zeros, $500,000, looked at HR 2847 behind my desk, the family values bill, the bill I'd fought for because I believe families deserve protection, because I believed in integrity, because I believed the law should reflect our highest values, not our lowest compromises. I tore the check in half. Get out of my office. Diane's smile finally fell. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. I stood, walked to the door, opened it. And Diane, tell Brandon I'm coming for him. Tell him I know everything. Tell him when Sophie finds out, and she will find out, his career is over. Tell him he picked the wrong family to destroy. The attorney grabbed Diane's arm, pulled her toward the door. You'll regret this, Diane said. I'll go to the Post myself. I'll tell them you were abusive, that you're retaliating against Brandon because he protected your wife from you. Your career is over, Aldridge. Then it's over, I said, but I'll end it on my terms, not yours. They left. I closed the door, sat at my desk, looked at the torn check, $500,000 ripped in half. Maybe you typed survive. I understand that. Political death, public humiliation, your daughter hating you, that's a hell of a price. Or maybe you typed truth. Because some things matter more than survival. Either way, I'd made my choice. 2 a.m. I sat in the Capitol building crypt, the room where I'd taken my oath of office 3 times. 16 years ago, 10 years ago, 4 years ago. Each time with my right hand raised, my left hand on the Constitution, Tori beside me smiling, swearing to serve with integrity. The marble was cold. I sat on the floor anyway. The building was empty. Just security guards making rounds, cleaning crew in the distance, the hum of ventilation, the weight of history, every representative who'd ever served, every oath ever taken, every promise made in this place. And I'd failed my daughter, failed to see what was right in front of me, failed to protect my family from a predator I'd welcomed into our home. I held my congressional pin in my hand, the small gold insignia I wore every day. Proof of service, proof of commitment, proof I'd earned the trust of 780,000 constituents. How do I face them now? I'd spent 18 years fighting for family protection, co-authored the Family First Act, championed the Marriage Protection Act, voted for child welfare reform, standing in committee hearings saying, I fight for families every day. And I couldn't protect my own. I put my head in my hands, let myself feel it, all of it. The grief, the rage, the shame, the exhaustion of smiling when I was dying inside, the torture of watching Sophie love the man who was destroying us all, the mockery of my viral speech, the post-investigation, Diane's bribe, Tori's threat, Brandon's pattern, 7 years of predation laid out in Kevin's file, 7 families destroyed, and I was going to be number 8. Unless I stopped it. But how? Tell Sophie and shatter her, stay silent and endanger her, go public and watch the scandal consume us all? No good choices. I didn't hear the security guard approach, just looked up and he was there. Name tag, Marcus, 50s, kind eyes, standing a respectful distance away. Congressman, you okay? I wiped my eyes quickly, stood. Yeah, just needed to think. It's 2 a.m. I know. He looked at me for a long moment, then sat down on the marble floor where I'd been sitting, patted the stone beside him. I've been working security here 15 years, Marcus said. Seen a lot of representatives come through, most of them good people carrying heavy loads. You've always been different. Actually care. Actually try. So when I see you in the crypt at 2 a.m. crying, I figure something's real wrong. I sat back down. We sat in silence for a while. Can I tell you something? Marcus asked. My wife cheated on me 20 years ago with my best friend, found out the day after our daughter's high school graduation, thought my world was ending. What did you do? Told the truth to my daughter, to my family, to anyone who asked. Lost some friends, lost my wife, but I kept my daughter, kept my integrity. And eventually I built something better than what I'd lost, something honest. He looked at me. You didn't betray them, sir. You were betrayed. There's a difference. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. How do you know? I asked. How do you know I'm not the hypocrite everyone says I am? Because hypocrites don't sit in crypts at 2 a.m. questioning themselves. They sleep fine. You're not sleeping because you care. That's the difference. Marcus stood, held out his hand, pulled me up. Whatever you're going through, truth's usually the hardest path, but it's the only one that leads anywhere good. He walked away, left me alone in the crypt. I stood there for a long time, thought about his words, thought about Sophie, about Brandon's pattern, about Tori's threat, about Diane's bribe, about the fact that I had a choice, not between good options, between honest ones. I could protect my career and sacrifice my daughter, or protect my daughter and sacrifice everything else. Not really a choice at all. I left the Capitol building as the sun was rising, drove back to Arlington, went to my office, pulled out every piece of evidence, hotel receipts, burner phone, strategy memo, opposition research file, pregnancy test, security badge logs showing Brandon's late-night office entries, paternity test I'd secretly ordered through a friend at the hospital, all of it, irrefutable, undeniable. And I called Sophie. Dad, it's 6 a.m. I need you to come to my office. Today, noon, there's something I have to tell you. Is Mom... Just come, sweetheart, please. Silence on the line. Then, okay, I'll be there. I hung up, laid the evidence on my desk, all of it. The pieces of my daughter's world I was about to shatter. Because Marcus was right. Truth was the hardest path, but it was the only one that led anywhere good. Sophie arrived at noon exactly. She'd always been punctual. One of the things I loved about her, reliable, organized, conscientious, the kind of person you could count on, which made what I was about to do so much worse. She came into my Arlington office, saw the evidence spread across my desk, hotel receipts, burner phone, strategy memo, opposition research file, pregnancy test, paternity test results that had arrived yesterday. 98% certainty Brandon was the father. Security badge logs, everything. Dad, what is all this? I closed the door, locked it. We'd need privacy for this. Sit down, sweetheart. She sat, looked at the papers on my desk, looked at me. Her face was already changing. She knew. Somehow she already knew this was bad. 3 weeks ago, I said, I found a pregnancy test in your mother's bathroom drawer. Sophie's breath caught. Is Mom pregnant? Yes. But that's wonderful. I mean, I know it's unexpected, but Dad, you're going to have another... It's not mine. The words fell like stones into still water, ripples spreading, silence after. What? We haven't been intimate in 6 months. The test showed 8 weeks. I picked it up. White plastic stick, 2 pink lines, the date in Sharpie. This is your mother's pregnancy test. but the baby isn't mine. Sophie stared at the test, at me. There has to be a mistake. Maybe you forgot, or I didn't forget. I picked up the hotel receipts, 18 pieces of thermal paper. Capitol Hill Hyatt, room 1214, corporate credit card, our campaign card. 18 visits over 6 months, all nights I was in the district. I spread them across the desk. July 8th, July 22nd, August 4th, on and on. Sophie's hands started shaking. Kevin found these during a routine expense audit. Brandon claimed they were donor meetings. I picked up the burner phone, cheap Nokia. I found this in your mother's gym bag. I handed it to her. Read the messages. Her hands shook as she opened it, red. Her face went white, then red, then white again. Can't wait to be inside you again, Mrs. Aldridge. Her voice was barely a whisper. Tell Jim you're at yoga. There are 243 more, I said. Kevin recovered them, all deleted, all between your mother and... I paused, had to say it. And Brandon. No. Sophie set the phone down, stood. No, Brandon wouldn't. Mom wouldn't. This is fake. Someone's trying to... It's real. I picked up the strategy memo, 8 pages, Tori's handwriting. Your mother and Brandon were planning to force me out. Primary challenge, ethics complaint. After your wedding, they'd make their move. Brandon would run for my seat. Sophie grabbed the memo. Read her mother's handwriting. Her hands trembled so badly the pages rustled. After Sophie's wedding, we make our move. She read it aloud, voice breaking. After my wedding, they were planning this during my engagement? Yes. How long? She looked up at me, eyes already filling with tears. How long have they been? At least 6 months, maybe longer. I picked up the Politico article, the engagement announcement. This photo, July 15th. Look at the background. She looked, saw her mother watching Brandon, the longing in Tori's face even out of focus. The first hotel receipt is July 8th, I said. 1 week before this article. She was already sleeping with him when you showed me your engagement ring. When we called the reporters. When I told them Brandon was like a son to us. Sophie dropped the article, covered her mouth with her hands. There's more, I said. Had to tell her everything. Kevin did opposition research. Brandon's done this before. I opened the manila folder. 47 pages. Texas, 2019. Congressman Bill Davis. Brandon was his campaign manager. Had an affair with Davis's wife. Married her after the divorce. Left her 6 months later. I pulled out more pages. Virginia, college, California, graduate school. A pattern, Sophie. He targets powerful men. Gets close, seduces their wives or daughters. This is what he does. She was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face, mascara running. You were never special to him, I said, voice gentle but unflinching. You were just next. How long have you known? Her voice broke completely. 3 weeks. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I needed proof. I needed to make sure. My voice cracked. I needed to protect you. She looked at the evidence. All of it. The pregnancy test, the hotel receipts, the burner phone, the strategy memo, the opposition file, the paternity test. The baby, she whispered, it's his. Yes. She stood there, 24 years of love and trust and family crumbling around her. I watched it happen, watched my daughter's world end, and I'd been the one to detonate it. But better now than after she married him. Better this pain than a lifetime with a predator. She removed her engagement ring slowly. Cushion-cut diamond, 2 carats, Tiffany setting. Set it on my desk with a soft click. He gave me this while sleeping with Mom. Not a question, a statement. Yes. And you... She looked at me, really looked, saw the weight I'd been carrying, the 3 weeks of knowing, the torture of watching her plan her wedding while I gathered evidence. You've known for 3 weeks, you've been smiling, pretending while carrying this. Yes. She crossed to me, put her arms around me, held on tight. We both cried, father and daughter, both betrayed, both destroyed, both still standing somehow. But who protects you, Daddy? She whispered into my shoulder. I couldn't answer that. 5 days later, December 15th, National Cathedral, 600 guests seated in wooden pews. Sophie in her wedding dress, white lace, cathedral train, her grandmother's veil, flowers everywhere, string quartet playing, photographers positioned, cameras ready, no groom. Sophie stood at the altar, alone. The dress she'd dreamed about since she was a little girl. The venue she'd chosen so carefully. The day she'd planned for months. And she was about to destroy it all. I stood in the vestibule, watching through the crack in the door. She'd asked me not to come up front. I need to do this alone, Dad. They need to see me choose truth. The music stopped. 600 people holding their breath, waiting for the bride to walk down the aisle, for the ceremony to begin. Sophie picked up the microphone. Her voice didn't shake. Thank you all for being here. I asked you to witness sacred vows today, to celebrate love and commitment and the beginning of a marriage. Pause. The cathedral was so quiet you could hear the ventilation system. But I've learned something in the past week. I've learned that some people take vows as suggestions, that some people will say anything to get what they want, that love isn't always what it appears to be. Murmurs rippling through the crowd, confusion, concern. My fiancé, her voice caught, steadied. Brandon Walsh betrayed me with my mother while we were planning this wedding, while I was choosing flowers and debating between salmon and chicken, while I was trying on this dress. Gasps, sharp intakes of breath. Someone said, "Oh my God," loud enough to echo. My father discovered it 3 weeks ago. He showed me the evidence 5 days ago. Hotel receipts, text messages, a pregnancy. She paused, let it land. My mother is pregnant with my fiancé's baby. The cathedral erupted. Whispers, gasps. A few people stood. Senator Monroe was in the third row. She pressed her hand to her mouth. Sophie removed her engagement ring, held it up so everyone could see. The diamond caught the cathedral light. This ring was bought while he was sleeping with my mother. This wedding was planned while they were conspiring to destroy my father's career. This love story, her voice broke, was a lie from the beginning. She set the ring on the altar. The soft clink of metal on stone echoed in the silence. My father protected me by telling me a truth that cost him everything. His marriage, his political reputation, his career. He could have stayed silent, let this wedding happen, saved himself the scandal. But he chose to save me instead. From a man who's done this before, to other families, other daughters. She looked directly at where Diane Walsh sat, face purple with rage. Some of you will say I'm humiliating myself, that I should have handled this privately. But my father taught me something. He taught me that truth matters more than image, that integrity matters more than comfort, that you don't protect predators to save face. She picked up her bouquet, white roses, peonies, the flowers she'd chosen with such care. If you'll excuse me, her voice finally broke, I need to go find my dad. She ran, down the aisle in her wedding dress, cathedral train, dragging behind her, 600 people watching, cameras flashing, whispers becoming shouts. I stepped out from the vestibule. She crashed into me, fell into my arms, sobbing. Take me home, Dad. I held her, my daughter in her wedding dress. The dress that would never be worn for its intended purpose. The marriage that would never happen. The future that had just gone up in flames. But she was safe. Safe from Brandon. Safe from a life built on lies. Let's go home, sweetheart. The consequences came fast. I filed for divorce that Monday. Virginia's a fault-based state. Adultery is grounds. Tori's attorney tried to negotiate, tried to claim the prenup should stand. My attorney laughed. Your client had an affair with the defendant's employee, got pregnant, and conspired to destroy his political career using campaign funds. The prenup is void. Congressional Ethics Committee voted 8-1 to terminate Brandon's fellowship. Only Diane Walsh's pick voted no. She'd gotten him appointed in the first place. Brandon's all-access badge was confiscated. Security logs showing 34 late-night entries presented as evidence. He was escorted from the building. I got a restraining order against Diane Walsh. She'd sent 17 threatening emails in 3 days. Harassment, witness intimidation. Her attorney advised her to stop. She didn't listen. The judge granted the order immediately. Brandon's name appeared on every political blacklist in D.C. within 48 hours. DNC severed ties. Virginia Democratic Party removed him from all committees. No campaign would touch him. His career over. Tori moved out of our house, rented an apartment in Alexandria, entered counseling, court-ordered as part of the custody negotiation for the baby. Not that there'd be custody, she'd made her choice. The baby came early, stress-induced labor at 7.5 months. Boy, 4 pounds, 2 ounces, premature but healthy. I didn't plan to be there, didn't want to see her, but the hospital called. I was still listed as next of kin. Emergency contact, I went, found Tori in the recovery room, holding him. This tiny baby with Brandon's eyes, her hands shaking, tears streaming. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, "for everything, for Claire, for..." "Don't," I said. "I'm not here as your husband. I'm here because you're a patient, because I took an oath once to serve, to protect, not because you're my wife anymore." The adoptive parents waited outside. Brandon's cousin from Richmond and her husband. They'd been trying for years, vetted, stable, good people who'd give this baby what Tori and Brandon never could, a honest home. Tori held him for 20 minutes, whispered to him, apologized, then handed him to the nurse. "Give him a good life," she said. "That's all that matters now." The nurse left with the baby. Tori looked at me. "Thank you for not making me keep the secret, for not making Sophie marry him without knowing. I know you'll never forgive me, but thank you for saving her." I left without answering, because she was right. I'd never forgive her. But I had saved Sophie, and in the end, that was the only thing that mattered. The House floor. 350 of my colleagues seated, C-SPAN cameras rolling, gallery full. Sophie sat there, Anna beside her, Richard and Kevin in the back. Senator Monroe in the congressional guest section. Press in the overflow areas, 2.8 million people watching the live stream. I stood at the microphone, same microphone where I'd given that speech 6 months ago, the speech that went viral, the speech that made me a punchline. Time to reclaim it. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to address the events of the past month, events that have become public knowledge, events that have been used to call my integrity into question. Silence, everyone watching, waiting to see if I'd resign, if I'd apologize, if I'd make excuses. I did none of those things. 6 months ago, I stood at this microphone and gave a speech about the sanctity of marriage vows, about honoring commitments, about being the kind of person who keeps promises even when it's hard. That speech went viral last month. People called me a hypocrite, said I must be cheating on my wife, said I was a fraud. I paused, let it sit. They were wrong. I was keeping my vows. My wife was breaking hers. With my daughter's fiancé, with my chief of staff. While I was in committee hearings fighting for family protection legislation, they were using our campaign funds to pay for hotel rooms. Gasps from the gallery, my colleagues shifting in their seats. But I wasn't done. I've always said I fight for families every day. It's been my campaign slogan, my brand, my identity. And last month, people threw those words back at me, said they were lies, said I was fighting for everyone's families except my own. I looked directly at the camera. Today, I'm here to tell you, I'm fighting for my family by choosing truth over comfort, by refusing to let my daughter marry a predator. by refusing to hide what happened because hiding it would be easier, by standing here and saying I was betrayed, but I will not betray you by lying about it. I could feel the shift, the room leaning forward, listening. I've always believed the public deserves the truth. I've said it in every speech, every town hall, every interview, and today I'm giving it to you. My wife betrayed me. My chief of staff betrayed me. They conspired to destroy my career. They used campaign resources for personal affairs. They planned to force me out and run my chief of staff for my seat. I pulled out the strategy memo, held it up so the cameras could see. This is the evidence. 47 pages of opposition research showing my chief of staff has done this before. To other families, other daughters, hotel receipts, text messages, security logs, pregnancy tests, all of it filed with the Ethics Committee, all of it available for review. Senator Monroe stood, started clapping, slowly. Then Representative Davis from Texas, the congressman from Kevin's research, Brandon's previous victim, he stood, started clapping. Then more, across the aisle. Both sides, Democrats and Republicans standing, applauding. I wasn't finished. I'm not resigning, I'm not walking away, because that would send a message that victims should hide, that betrayal wins, that predators get to destroy families and face no consequences. I won't send that message. Not to my daughter, not to my constituents, not to anyone who's ever been betrayed and told to stay quiet for the sake of dignity. The applause grew louder. I will continue to serve. I will continue to fight for families, including my own. I will continue to believe that integrity matters, that vows matter, that truth matters even when it costs everything. I looked up at Sophie in the gallery. She was crying, smiling through tears. My daughter taught me something this month. She stood in front of 600 people in her wedding dress and chose truth over comfort, chose honesty over image, chose to protect other women from the man who'd victimized her. She's 24 years old, and she's braver than I'll ever be. I finished, stepped back from the microphone. The chamber erupted. Standing ovation. Colleagues across the aisle, press scribbling, C-SPAN cameras catching it all. I looked at H.R. 2847 in my mind, the Family Values Bill, the bill that had seemed like a joke when everything fell apart. But it wasn't a joke. It never was. I'd lived those values. Even when my family didn't. Even when it cost me everything. And I'd do it again. Jim and Sophie redefined what family means that day. Not who you're born to. Not the people who share your blood or your last name. But the people who show up with truth. Even when it costs everything. The people who choose integrity over comfort. If you built your own chosen family like that, if you've walked away from blood relatives who were toxic and found your real family elsewhere, if you've ever had to choose truth over peace, tell me about them in the comments. I want to know who showed up for you when it mattered. And if this story moved you, if Jim and Sophie's choice meant something to you, subscribe. I tell stories about people who choose integrity when it costs everything, about the price of truth, about finding family in unexpected places. I'll see you in the next one. Georgetown Law graduation, May 2026, 5 months after the wedding that never happened, 6 months after the world fell apart. Sophie sat with her class, 300 graduating law students in black robes. I sat in the audience with Anna and Richard, no Tori. She'd moved to Arizona, took a position at a smaller hospital. We'd signed the divorce papers in March. The dean called names, one by one, students crossing the stage, receiving diplomas, applause for each. Sophie, Catherine Aldridge, Juris Doctor, cum laude. The applause was louder for her. Everyone knew. Everyone had seen the news. The viral wedding cancellation, the congressional speech, the scandal that had rocked Virginia politics. But they weren't applauding the scandal. They were applauding courage. Sophie crossed the stage, accepted her diploma, heavy parchment paper rolled with a blue ribbon. She looked at it, then looked into the audience, found me, not with pity, not with shame, with pride. She smiled, held up her diploma. The light caught the gold seal. I smiled back, a real smile, for the first time in months. After the ceremony in the courtyard, she found me. You came. Of course I came. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. She hugged me, diploma in one hand, the other arm around me. I got the fellowship, she said, Johns Hopkins Civil Rights Litigation. I start in September. Baltimore. Yeah, a fresh start, away from D.C., away from everything. She pulled back, looked at me. Is that okay that I'm leaving? It's perfect. You need to build your own life, your own career, away from my shadow. You're not a shadow, Dad. She paused. You're the reason I know what integrity looks like, what it costs, why it matters. We stood there, father and daughter, both of us starting over, both of us scarred but healing. My wedding ring was gone, left hand bare. I'd taken it off the day the divorce finalized. 22 years of marriage reduced to paperwork and signatures, but Sophie's hand was in mine, firm, strong. Alive. I'd lost a wife, a career trajectory. The party had made it clear I wouldn't get leadership positions anymore. Too controversial, too much scandal, a carefully built image of the perfect family man. But I'd kept my daughter, kept my integrity, kept my seat in Congress, barely, but I'd kept it. Kept the ability to look at myself in the mirror, and in the end, those were the only things that mattered. The photographer called for family photos. Sophie pulled me toward the backdrop, just the two of us. No Tori, no Brandon, no pretense of a perfect family, just us, broken and healing and honest. The camera flashed, caught us mid-laugh at something Anna yelled from the side. Caught Sophie's pride in her diploma, caught my arm around her shoulders, caught the beginning of something new. The future was uncertain. Sophie moving to Baltimore. My political career damaged but surviving. Tori in Arizona with her choices. Brandon blacklisted and gone. The baby with a family who'd love him honestly. Everything broken, everything scattered, but everything honest, and honest was enough. Sophie looked up at me. Thank you, Dad. For what? For choosing me, for telling me the truth even though it destroyed everything, for... Her voice caught. For protecting me when it cost you everything. I pulled her closer. You're my daughter. I'll always choose you. Always. She smiled. That brilliant smile that reminded me of why I'd fought so hard, why I'd torn up Diane's check, why I'd stood at the house microphone and told the truth when lying would have been easier. Because some things matter more than political survival. Some things matter more than image. Some people are worth losing everything to protect. The applause continued around us. Graduates celebrating, families taking photos, the future spreading out before all of them. Sophie squeezed my hand. Come on, let's go celebrate, just us. Just us, I agreed. We walked away from the ceremony. Father and daughter, scarred but standing, broken but healing. The future was uncertain, but it was honest, and that was enough.